Hi again, it's Pilaria. I wanted to tell you about part two of why I believe in God. Once again, for those of you that word triggers you, substitute goddess or universal consciousness, whatever you want to call it. At any rate, this is a story when I was around 25, 26 years old. I had graduated from college, gotten my first job, was struggling to make ends meet. And I lived down in an area, a beautiful area in Kansas City called the Plaza, which has as many fountains as Seville, Spain, or something. That's their sister city. It's gorgeous. If you haven't been there, you really should. It's phenomenal. Anyway, I lived down there in a very old apartment building. Unfortunately, at that time, and I don't know about now, but back then there were many rapes and things happening down there. So it was this beautiful area, but it kind of had a bad reputation. So there were some kind of vibes down there that weren't exactly all love and light. At any rate, down the hall from me, there lived a young architect who wanted to take me out, and I did go out with him one night on a journey to see a building he was working on downtown for UMB, which is a bank, a big bank in Kansas City. It was cool. Had some cool statues that they had purchased from a famous artist. So that was cool, but then I just didn't like him, so I just needed to leave, and, ew. So a few weeks later, come to find out, well, actually, I had got a call on my phone. I had my wisdom teeth out, and I was kind of loopy out of it, and I got this call. I didn't know who it was from, but then I thought about it later. I thought that sounded like his voice, and he was like saying terrible things and then hung up, and I forget exactly what he said because, like I said, I was loopy because I had my wisdom teeth out. A few hours later, I hear my air conditioning unit, because I was on the bottom floor of this very old apartment building from the late 1800s or early 1900s when it was built. I hear my air conditioning unit being pulled, and being still loopy, looked out the window, and I was like, "Who's there?" Like, no fear. And I see this guy walking away and just going like this. I only saw the back of him, and I thought, that's that guy. That's him. I forget his name now, which you'll know why in a minute. At any rate, I called my mom, "Mom, this is so weird." And she was like, she'd never met him, but anyway. 2 weeks later, I hear about this guy on the news. The police arrived. He was naked in his underwear, covered in blood, with a cross carved into his head. He had killed his mother. He'd basically called every woman he knew before he did that. So they were, I guess, glad that they didn't. I don't know how many he would have killed. Anyway, very weird story. So you can kind of get the energy and the vibe of this building I was living in, which was lovely and beautiful, but weird. Within a few months, I started having experiences in my apartment, and mainly it was rapping. So I would be dozing off to sleep, and I would hear, and wake me up, and I heard it was like rapping all over in different areas. So I got freaked out, needless to say. And one night, a series of things kept happening. So another night, I felt like there was an entity on top of me kissing me, literally heavy on me, kissing me, and I screamed, and then it was rapping like all night in different places. So this was like, I kept all my lights on. I was sleeping with my lights on. It was freaking me out. It was over a series of weeks. So the clincher, I guess, or one of the clinchers, was when I woke up in the middle of the night and my birdcage was spinning just like this. That had never happened. That had just never happened. So I called my mom in the middle of the night. It was probably 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, Mom, my birdcage is spinning. So I wake her up out of a dead sleep. So I go to her evangelical church and have hands laid on me, and they talk about, the devil, and, that did nothing. So the rapping continued, everything continued, until I was so tired, barely making it through my days, and just, I was angry. So I had already told you in part 1 about my experience of God. I believe in God. God came to me and told me everything was okay. Well, I was pissed. I'm like, what the, you know what, I would say it because I have a potty mouth. You'll find that out, I'm sure. At any rate, I'm angry, angry, angry. I am to my limit. I'm so mad. In my head, I start screaming. If you're so powerful, if you're so great, if you're so wonderful, why have you done this to me? What is this? Can't you even control this evil, whatever it is, and get rid of this? Well, after enough time of screaming this, all of a sudden, the entire room, I lived in a studio apartment, came to life. I don't know how to explain it any other way. The air was thick with consciousness. I felt everything. I felt the tables were alive, the couch, the bed, everything was alive. The air was alive. Everything was electric. And instead of screaming in my mind, I believe I started speaking in tongues, as they might say. I don't necessarily believe in that crap, but I know that I was saying, I love you, you're so beautiful, you're the greatest, blah, blah, blah. All by myself, talking about how great God was. So it was like, I don't know how long it lasted. I was alone and young and scared and tired, but it was wonderful. And I just had this relief, this sense of relief. All the lights went off. I went to bed and slept like a baby, and it never happened again. So that is the second part 2 reason why I believe in God.